All right, guys. 30, 60, 90s, 45, 45, 90s, Pythagorean theorem, the lesson we just had. Here's the homework. A lot of good stuff in here. We're going to work each one of them out. So let's try to get really good at this stuff. All right. First one is a triangle that has two sides. So we do regular Pythagorean theorem. 24 divided by 6 is 4. 18 divided by 6 is 3. So that's a 3, 4, 5 triangle. 5 times 6 is 30. So if I asked you what family does it come from, 3, 4, 5. If I ask you what's the scale factor, the answer would be times 6 or 6. The second one, we have a 30-degree angle. So we know that, I'm not going to do this every time, but if you have the long leg, the short leg equals the long leg divided by root 3. Or you could think of this as something root 3 equals 12. So how do you fix that? You divide by root 3. The hope is that you can do these in your head eventually. So please keep trying to do that. 12 divided by root 3. I'm not going to do this every time, but this is the process that we're going to do to simplify it. We multiply the top and bottom by root 3. These cancel out. So we have x equals 12 root 3 on top and whole number 3 on bottom. 12 root 3 on top, whole number 3 on bottom. Well, that reduces 12 divided by 3 is 4. So that would be 4 root 3. So this side is 4 root 3, which is the side they're asking for. If I needed the hypotenuse, that would be 8 root 3, but they didn't ask for it. Here we go. Here's the 60-degree angle. So this is the long leg, which means that this is the 30, and that's the short leg. Again, I'm not going to do this every time, but here's a hypotenuse. The short leg equals the hypotenuse divided by 2. Or you could think of it as 2 times something equals the hypotenuse. No matter how you think about it, you should be taking the 23 and dividing it by 2. And that is how long that side is, 23 divided by 2. Here we have the short leg. The rules are it's the short leg. So the long leg equals the short leg times root 3. The hypotenuse equals 2 times the short leg. So if we have the short leg, we would double it. That's the hypotenuse. And we would multiply it by root 3. That's the long leg. 45, 45, 90 rules. Here there's not a short leg. There's just a leg because they're equal. But the hypotenuse equals the leg times root 2. And the leg equals the hypotenuse divided by root 2. Those are the rules for 45, 45, 90s. So I have a leg. The other leg is going to be the same size, and the hypotenuse is going to be the leg times root 2. Here we just have two sides of a triangle, so we're going to do a smaller similar triangle. Divide by 2 is 15. Divide by 2 is 17. That is an 8, 15, 17, which means that is 8 times 2, which is 16. So what family is it? 8, 15, 17. What's the scale factor? 2. Here we have the long leg. The side across from 60 is the long leg. So here's what we know. Something root 3 equals 15. So we divide by root 3, and we get 15 root 3 over 3, which is 5 root 3. So the short leg is 5 root 3. Remember that the short leg equals the long leg divided by root 3. That's what we did. And then to get the hypotenuse, we need to double that, 10 root 3. The hypotenuse equals 2 times the short leg. 45, 45, 90 rules. This is the hypotenuse. So something times root 2 equals 18. So we divide off the root 2. That would be 9 root 2 over 2. Sorry. That would be 18 root 2 over 2, which is just 9 root 2. So the legs are both 9 root 2. Got it. If I know two sides, it's regular Pythagorean theorem, so I draw a smaller one. Divide by 2 is 9. Divide by 2 is 7. And that is not a triple, so we need to hit it with a Pythagorean theorem. 81 minus 49. So 41, 52, that's the square root of 52. Well, we need to make sure that's fully reduced or fully simplified. If you don't know what factors go into 52, just make a tree. This would be 2 and 26. That'd be 2 and 13. So this is root 2 and root 2. So root 52 equals root 2 times root 2 times root 13. And that is 2 root 13. Did I mess up? I said 8 root 2 there. That would be, oh. Wait, what is 81 minus 49? Did I get that right? I'm going to type that in. 32. Team. So that is the square root of 32. Which I do know that. That is the square root of 16 times the square root of 2. That is 4 root 2. Yikes. 81 minus 40 is 41. Minus 9 is 32. Yikes. All right, so this side is 4 root 2, but we divided by 2 to get there, so we got to multiply the 2 back in. 8 root 2. Okay, there we go. I like it. We're there now. All right, 30, 60, 90 rules. I'm going to go a lot faster through these now. I've showed you the slow way, but I want you doing these mostly in your head. This is the long leg, and it is the long leg divided by root 3. That's going to be 26 root 3 over 3. And then what do you do to the short leg to get the hypotenuse is you double it. That's going to be 52 root 3 over 3, and that's what they're looking for. So we divided by root 3 and multiplied by 2. Here's a square. All 4 sides are equal. All 4 corners are 90. So this is a 45, 45, 90. So that's 26, 26, 26 root 2. Every square is going to be a 45, 45, 90. Got it. A rectangle, we know 2 sides. I'm going to focus on this right triangle. I'm going to reduce. That would be divide by 2 is 4, divide by 2 is 7. That's going to be an addition. That's 7 squared plus 4 squared. That's 49 plus 16. 49, 59, that's the square root of 65. 65 is 5 times 13, so there's no perfect square factors. Well, that's the small version, so what do I have to do? I have to multiply the 2 back in. That's going to be 2 root 65. When we multiply the 2 back in. All right, equilateral triangle. How do I know it's equilateral? These 2 sides are marked equal, so that's 24, and then they told you this side's 24. So every side's 24. That means that the corners are 60, and this corner's cut in half. So what we're working on is a right triangle with a 30, a 60, and a 24 hypotenuse. The rules say divide by 2, multiply by root 3. To go from hypotenuse to short leg, you divide by 2. To go from short leg to long leg, you times it by the square root of 3. Moving on. All right, special cases. You'll have all of these on your quiz. Equilateral triangle. We just did one. Equilateral triangle. We need to drop a height there. Drop it like it's height. Drop it like it's height. Right there. And what ends up happening is you get a 30, 60, 90, right? The corners have to all be 60 on an equilateral triangle, and the vertex angle is going to be cut in half. So we are worried about this triangle, a triangle that has a 30 and a 60, and it says that the perimeter is 36. So 36 divided by 3 is 12. So all these sides are 12. So this is 12. 12 divided by 2 is 6. Times root 3 is 6 root 3. That would be the height. And it says find the area. So the area equals 1/2 times the base times the height. And it's the base of the original triangle. The base would be 12. The height would be 6 root 3. And that is 36 root 3. Nailed it. All right, a square. Just did these a moment ago as well. On a square, since all 4 sides are equal, when you draw the diagonal, you make 45, 45, 90s. It says the diagonal has a length of 22. So how do we go back to the side? Remember that the leg equals the hypotenuse divided by root 2. So that'd be 22 divided by root 2. And that would be 22, root 2 over 2, which is 11 root 2. So this process is a process I want us practicing and trying really hard to do in our head. But 11 root 2 is one side, and I want the area. So the area of a square is s squared, or the side squared. So for this one, that'd be 11 root 2 squared, which would be 121 times 2, which would be 242. Got it. An equilateral triangle, so we're back to an equilateral triangle. This time we know the height. So an equilateral triangle, drop it like its height. So when you drop the height on this triangle, you make a 30, 60, 90, and they tell you the height is 12. So what we're really worried about here is 30, 60, height of 12. That is the long leg. How do you go from long leg? So this is the long leg. We're going to divide by root 3. Remember that the short leg equals the long leg divided by root 3. So that would be 12 divided by root 3, which would be 12 root 3 over 3, which would be 4 root 3. I really want you to try to get better to the point where you don't have to write any of this, where you go 12 to 4 root 3 over here without writing a single thing down. And then the hypotenuse would be 8 root 3. They want the perimeter, though. So if one side is 8 root 3, then 8 root 3 would be all the sides, which means that the perimeter would be 8 root 3 times 3, which is 24 root 3. Got it. Love it. Let's go. All right, we're back to another square. Got this gorgeous square. When I draw the diagonal of a square, it cuts it into 45, 45, 90s. It says the perimeter is 24 root 5. So 24 root 5 divided by 4 is 6 root 5. So this side is 6 root 5. How do you go from the leg to the hypotenuse? That is, the hypotenuse equals the leg times root 2. So for this one, that'd be 6 root 5 times root 2, which is 6 root 10. Got it. So got to get these special cases down. Squares, rectangles, equilateral triangles. All right. And we pick it up a little bit. They start getting a little tougher. This is what they're going to look like more often in here. Got a right triangle. They're actually asking for this, the angle. Well, look at this pattern. That's 42. That's 21 root 3. So if this side was 21, does that follow the pattern of times 2 and times root 3? Yes, it does. So recognizing 30, 60, 90s is really important. If you see a triangle where you see this like 42 and 21 root 3 or 42 and 21, you need to pick up, if you had any two of these, understanding that you can find that you actually know what kind of triangle that is really important. So that would be a 60-degree angle up there. That's the long leg. Here we know it's a 30, 60, 90. We have the short leg. We want the long leg, which equals the short leg times root 3. So 7 root 6 times root 3 is 7 root 18. But root 18 is root 9 times root 2. So that is 3 root 2. Don't forget there's a 7 in front. 21 root 2. You have to keep going until you're fully simplified. And I know what I just did is hard for a lot of us. It's going to stay hard if you don't put in a lot of effort to get really good at this. Stuff like this I can do extremely quickly because I've put in a lot of time to get good at it. I don't have to even think about this anymore. And that's where I want you to be so that when you get into higher level math, that this isn't slowing you down. This needs to be stuff that you get really good at. That won't be easy. It will be a high effort thing, my friends. All right, we got a 30, 60, 90. I know the long leg and I need the short leg. Remember that the short leg equals the long leg divided by root 3. So that's going to look kind of clunky, but it's going to be 3/2 root 10 divided by root 3. So that's going to be 3 root 30 over 6, which is going to be root 30 over 2. So let's just make sure we understand what just happened here. Another way to write this would actually be 3 root 30 over 2 root 3. You could think about it like that. Why is that? If I were to have this 3/2 root 10 times, divided by root 3, which is what we did, that is the same thing as this is the exact same thing, 3 root 10 over 2 divided by root 3. That's the same thing, which is the same thing as 3 root 10 over 2 times 1 over root 3. Those are all the same thing, and this is the one I kind of went forward with in my head a little bit. And from there, I rationalized the denominator. That's probably a pretty hard one, just the way it's presented. But that is root 30 over 2. We'll have to practice that more for sure. All right, here's my 60. I'm going to change colors. So this is my long leg. So once again, the short leg equals the long leg divided by root 3. So that's going to be 3 root 21 divided by root 3, which is 3 root 7. Now the hypotenuse equals the short leg times 2, which would be 6 root 7. 6, 7, 6, 7, 6, 7, 6, 7. Oh my gosh, sorry. That'll be 6 root 7. All right, moving forward. 45, 45, 90. I want the hypotenuse, which equals the short leg times root 2, which would be 6 root 6 times root 2, which is 6 root 12. But root 12 is root 4 times root 3. That's 2 root 3. Don't forget the 6 in front. That's going to be 12 root 2 as your hypotenuse. Nope, I messed up. That's a 3. 4 root 3. That's 2 root 3. Oh! Don't forget there's a 6 in front. 12 root 3. There it is. Beautiful. Over here, 45, 45, 90, I have the hypotenuse. I want the leg. The leg equals the hypotenuse divided by root 2. 3 root 10 divided by root 2 is 3 root 5. Perfect. Here they want the angle. Pay attention to the pattern. How would you go from 10 to 5 root 2? Or how would you go from 5 root 2 to 10? Check this out. What if you took 5 root 2 and multiplied it by root 2? That would be whole number 2. That would be 10. Isn't that the pattern of 1, 1, root 2? Yes, it is. Or if I took 10 and divided it by root 2, isn't that 10 root 2 over 2, which is 5 root 2? Yes, either way, you know that this is a 45, 45, 90. That's a lot harder to recognize. Hopefully, maybe someone out there got that, though. Oh, we're done. Guys, I want more. Okay. Well, hopefully you enjoyed that. I know that I did. Let's continue practicing, getting really good at this. I'll see you next time.